What's going on, everyone? It is your girl Dez Nicole, and tonight I have the honor and privilege of sitting down and chatting with the one, the only Earica Cole. Now, for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, let me just tell you a little bit about this boss that I get to talk to tonight. And an accomplished published speaker, award-winning businesswoman, advocate for social causes, expert in sales and processing, I'm not done, financial literacy guru, social media influencer, philanthropist, producer, and now a published author. Ladies and gents, Mrs. Earica Cole.
Thank you. Listen, I got tired listening to everything you were saying.
The list kept going on and on. I'm like, first of all, how do you wear all these hats and look this good? What's the secret?
The secret is I make sure I get my sleep when I need to. I make sure I get my rest. I have to because I have sickle cell anemia, so I have to take some time for me. I believe in self-care, but I stay busy and I love it. I love the fact of always working on a new project, always coming up with something different, challenging myself and staying on top of the game.
I feel like the only way you can do that is if you like drink water and mind your business.
Absolutely.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Listen, and God. I mean, like call on God all the time. But yes, absolutely.
So the reason we're here tonight is because you just published a book.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
Excited, nervous. I can't believe it. Like it's something that I got to be honest. That was something that was never on my to-do list.
Never on your to-do list.
Never.
So how do we get there?
Actually, probably about in 2019, I started thinking, you know what, you should write a book. And I was like, have I really lived that long to write a book, you know? And so I was trying to figure out, do I write a book about financial wellness? Do I write a book about my life? Like, what do I do? And so I kind of pushed it back because, of course, when you're afraid of something that you've never done before. And then in 2020, life happened. I lost my sister tragically. 2021, of course, you know, I had 2 miscarriages, and of course, COVID happened, and so it gave me a lot of me time. And even through that transition, I was like, okay, it's time for me to do what I need to do. And I got confirmation from a minister that I needed to move forward with this, and so I just started writing.
Wait a minute. So all of this happened, honestly, recently. You
Yes.
said 2020,
Yes.
2021. And you already pushed out a book?
Yes.
You already pushed out.
Yes.
That would have took me like more time to think about like what to put in there, what not to put in there.
That's what the fear was, like getting started. What do I need to do? And so I kind of just sat down and I was like, okay, put your thoughts together. What do you want the book to be about? I started in probably around October, November of 2021. And then as I got my groove, you know, and figured out, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the direction I want to go. And so now I know multiple books are in me. So I'm excited about that because I'm drafting up ideas of things, of other, you know, topics I want to discuss, which I know financial wellness will be one as well.
Nice. So she said one is not a one and done here.
No.
It's more. It's more. So broken pieces created my purpose. Let me just say this. When I got the text from one of your teammates about your book, I saw the book cover and I'm like, this thing say broken pieces, but she is smiling. Like, how? Like, I want to know more. If you don't mind me asking, like, can you explain the process of even creating that book cover? Because I'm like, when I hear broken pieces, I don't see nobody smiling.
Yes. I think that's the beauty of it all. Because as I was going through and writing the book and thinking about purpose, you know, what my life has been like and all the things that I've gone through, even at a young, you know, age. I'm 45 years old and I think I have plenty more life to live, but there were so many points in my life that could have literally just broken me. Yeah, been done, you know. But through every single one of those instances, I got more motivation, I got more spiritually inclined, I got more growth, you know, and it just made me a better me, a better version of me. And so it's things that I now feel like I can share with others to help them because many people are experiencing it. And I used to not talk about anything, especially publicly. I have my inner circle and that was it. And social media kind of changed, you know, how I maneuver through life on a day-to-day basis. And so after putting some information out there and seeing the feedback and the responses from others, I was like, you know what, you need to share more.
So you keep mentioning purpose. What do you believe your purpose is, and what do you believe that this book is purposed to do?
So interesting thing, I found my purpose in doing financial wellness probably back in like 2003, 2004.
I just have to say this. The fact that you said that, and I'm sitting here with a Black woman, we're known to be bottom of the totem pole. We're known to not be the ones that's the boss, the one in charge. But I just got to give kudos to you. I have to stop and say that. So the
Thank you.
fact that that's the first thing out of your mouth, I want to know more about that.
Yes,
So
thank you. So honestly, I started in the financial industry, at the right age of 19. I was 19 years old. Yes, and so I got in as a teller. And I had a mentor in the beginning, because at first, just like many 19-year-olds, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do one thing. I was in cosmetology school and, had all these other, aspirations in life. But then I found my purpose in the financial world. I loved being able to help people, whether it be with, loans and getting their credit repaired, or preparing for purchasing a home, or just getting their financial, budgets together, and seeing the people and then the disparaging, classifications in wellness. I was like, how can we bring this to people? And so I made the decision, I think it was around 2006, 2007, I launched a financial wellness program. But the organization I was working for at the time was a little intimidated by it. And so they felt like it was a conflict of interest. And so I had to pull back, I had to say, okay, so I did it more in churches and, amongst my inner circle and the community that I was involved in. And it went a little differently for me, but I was still able to help people. And then now I'm just able to do it on a larger scale. And so I'm just fortunate. That's my number one purpose, I feel, is teaching people financial wellness and getting them straight, and understanding that you're going to make mistakes, in this journey. I've made mistakes, but there's always a way out. You just got to know the game.
Know the game. Know the game.
Absolutely.
Note that. You got to know the game.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you've been a lot in the corporate America world.
Yes.
How did you navigate that, even as an African American woman?
Ooh. I'm a Gen X, so it was a different transition. I came into corporate America after, of course, the baby boomers, where they were taught that basically you get into an organization and you stay there, until you die, until you're able to retire. And so I came in with a group that says, no, we want to do things a little differently. Like, as long as you offer me opportunity, as long as you allow me to blossom and groom in your organization, I will stay with your organization. But if you put me in a corner, lock me in a corner and say I can't learn anymore, I can't do anymore, or you can't pay me anymore and the budget is cut and all that, then I'll go to another organization that will understand and recognize my value. And so I think I played the game well. I had great mentors, black and white, to kind of show me the ropes and teach me the etiquettes of it all. But it was at definitely a different time. There was no social media the way it is now. So there was a corporate environment. And so just learning that game, learning how to play that game and using that game to my benefit. And unfortunately, and I even talk about this in my book, there were some times I played it incorrectly. And I have regrets on some decisions I did make that I should have been more vocal about, that I would never, be in that situation today. But it was one of those broken pieces, for me to help other people and other young minority women and men, that are in those situations now.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about what does it look like to play the game, to play it well, and to know the game?
Definitely, you got to be a student first. Sometimes just watch. I watched the bosses around me. Again, it didn't matter their race or their ethnicity or their age. I watched how they moved, how they interacted, the things that they did, how they, and then being very knowledgeable. It's one thing to go in and say you want to be a boss and say you want to do this, but you got to learn. You got to be a student first. And so studying your craft, and I came from that household that said you're not just going to be, great, you're going to be number one. Like, you got to, take ownership, and being in a lot of African American households during that time said, you can't be just as good, you got to be better. And so that is something that I've kind of always...
Or twice as better.
Twice as good, yeah. Just to have a seat at the table. So it was one of those things that I shunned away from a lot of ethnic type, stereotypes, because I didn't want to be pigeonholed. And so there were certain times that I felt like I needed to look the part or act the part in order to get, that seat at the table. So I think that was a part of playing the game as well.
And knowing how to, when they stay in the game and when they get out the game.
Absolutely.
Because obviously you got out.
Absolutely.
Look at you now.
Absolutely.
Look at you
Absolutely.
now. So you mentioned your household. You are the baby of 4, if I heard correctly. Can you talk a little bit about your sister dynamics? And I do want to go back to, I did hear that you say you lost a sister in 2020. If you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about that. I know you share about it in your book, but can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So first of all, I am the youngest of 4 biological siblings. My mother and father were both married previously before they had me, and my mother had 2 children. One passed away at an early age, my brother, and then my father had a daughter, and so she actually passed away in March of 2020. And so my family dynamics was basically me being in the household full time with my parents, unlike my siblings. As my sister got older, she was 13 when my mom and dad got married, my sister Kathy. And then, a few years later, she went off to college and then, had her own family after that. My sister Shay primarily lived with her mother, and she came, on holidays and different special occasions and those things. So, so my household dynamic was, very strong. We were a what they call middle class suburban Black family. My father was a manager high up at Southern Bell at the time, now AT&T, and my mother eventually became a stay-at-home mom, and she worked in our church. But at first, she worked in the banking field as well. That's where I got that from.
I was about to say, that's where you get it from.
Yes, exactly. But we had some trying times, and now that I'm an adult and I look back on certain situations and things that could have been handled differently, and me and my sister Shay, the one that passed away in March of 2020, we had a really troubled relationship basically throughout our entire lives, actually up until the time that she died. We weren't even speaking. We had stopped speaking a few months prior to her passing away. I did get opportunities to see her a couple months before, and we said, "I love you." So that is good. That last memory that I have with her. But unfortunately, just life and some poor decisions on both of our parts kept us kind of estranged, like throughout our entire lives. And so I'm very open and honest about that in my book. And my sister died tragically, and I've never talked about it. And so I'm now finally ready to share that story and what happened. And so just hopefully to help other families, heal from some of the grievances and some of the tragedies that they're even experiencing now or in the past, And as I wrote this book, I realized that me and my sister's trauma actually started when I was about maybe like 7 or 8 years old. And so how it just never recovered from several instances back then that unfortunately we just didn't deal with correctly as a family.
So if you could redo, like in hindsight, knowing all these things was just kind of like a build up to the months where you guys didn't talk, and then she passed. Would you do something differently?
Oh, absolutely.
And what would you tell others that are maybe have like some kind of sibling discord? What would you say? What would you tell them?
I think on both of our parts was pride. We always would say, I'm my daddy's daughter. Your father, Jerome, he was a handful, and so we both were very proud. We were both very stubborn, and I ain't do nothing to you. You ain't do, you say something. So going back and just kind of changing that, because again, our last argument was so petty. Like it was. When I tell you the pettiest of petty, and you look back at it and you be like, I can't even believe that this was even a thing. But it was like, honestly, it was just another thing. So even though that situation was petty, it stemmed from so many other situations. And we failed as a family. We didn't get counseling. We didn't seek advice from external communicators to help us effectively communicate. And so I'm very big now about that, seeking help, getting counseling, working with someone that just, basically doesn't have any skin in the game and they just want to help, And so I wish we would have done that. We would have been much healthier. And who knows, my sister might even be here if we would have done that.
That's beautiful. That one, that this now, that you can offer that, but two, like that last memory of like, hey, I love you.
Oh yeah,
I love
absolutely.
you. Say I love you, people.
Yes,
say I love you.
As
say
much
I
as
love
possible.
you. So something else that I ran across when I was reading some of your book is a lot of people don't know that your now husband is your second husband. Which means you talk about some deep stuff in your book. I gotta, again, hats off to you for being this vulnerable. Thank you, because I feel like seeing someone else's broken pieces, and you mentioned it earlier, it didn't break you. It didn't break you.
Right.
It's your whole,
right.
And you can smile now
Right.
like you're on your book. Right. But being able to see those pieces, thank you for sharing that. Can you talk a little bit about that part of your story? Or whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Yes. So it's interesting because people do think, Brian, who is my husband, and he's the first and only, man in my life, because we've been together since 2000 and I better get it right. I'll get in trouble. 2006 is when we met, and so we've had a lot of years, together. But prior to him, we both had previous marriages. But I've never talked about my previous relationship or my marriage, again, only my inner circle. So even through social media, people kind of look at the pictures, they look at the travel, they look at this, and they look at your life, and they think, oh my gosh, And some people are going through some situations that I can relate to. And I see even some people posting, about their relationship and about, whether it be verbal abuse or sexual abuse or infidelity. And I'm like, what? It's time for me to tell my story for people. I need people to understand that you can move forward. You can get out of situations. You can love again. You are worthy of love. And when I had to realize that, even at a young age, I got married pretty young. I was about 22 years old when I got married, and we were married for 5 years. So keeping that in mind, that there's life after. But you got to make some important decisions now.
And you got to realize it, like there's life. I love it. It keeps bringing me back to what you said earlier of like these things could have broke you.
Oh, absolutely.
And these are just, we only went over family dynamics, your other marriage. There's so much more. We only went over racism. There's a couple more things in your book as well. I would say, what was one of the hardest chapters to write?
I think the hardest was about my sister. The hardest was about my sister and I's relationship. And it wasn't that it was hard because of the relationship. It was the reality check of it all. It was if I would have gotten this 5 years ago, if I would have just, hindsight 2020, looked back and saw the realization of what was going on with us and how, we could have fixed that and worked on us, how things may have been different.
And then what would you say your favorite part about this whole journey of writing, or your favorite chapter of the book?
I think healing.
Healing?
Yeah, I think through writing this book, I had so many revelations, and I was able to heal even my family, because my family, of course, have read the book with me, and we've cried and we've laughed, and it's been very eye-opening, even to my mother. It was some things that she didn't even realize, or she didn't know, or she didn't understand, and she says, man, yeah, we really got this wrong, or I didn't know you felt that way, or, and so it was even healing some of the broken pieces within her that she didn't know that she had. So I think that was a part of it, the healing process.
So this healing process, do you think that there's ever an end to it? Like, do you ever arrive of like, hey, I'm whole, I am healed? Like, what does that look like for you to be standing here, but also like you're shaking your head now, like knowing of like, hey, I still have time to go?
Yeah, I think it's ongoing. I think healing is ongoing, because I still find some moments where, the grief or whatever that is, it comes back, or a moment, just being transparent, you have a reality check, or you can be having a conversation with somebody else and it brings you to a memory that you've had in the past with somebody else, and so you try to let that creep in, and so you have to constantly just kind of move on from that. But again, those experiences didn't break me. I thought in that moment I was broken. But they didn't break me, they made me whole, once I got past it. So that's the most important piece of it. So as I was writing the book, I decided to write a companion journal, because I was thinking, there's a lot of things that I'm talking about right now that people can relate to. And how can I help them go through their experiences and heal the way I'm healing as I'm writing this book and as I'm telling this story. And I felt that would be so powerful for people to read a book and say, you know what, it's my turn to find my purpose. It's my turn to heal through these broken pieces. And so maybe they can't write their own book, but using my book, they can go through that entire process. And so I just feel like it'll be a movement. So I'm excited about it.
Movement.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Absolutely.
I love
Purpose
that.
movement is what I want to experience.
Okay, hashtag.
Yes.
Make sure you find the
Yes.
hashtag purpose movement. So before we go, I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to talk to people who need to buy this book. Like, who is this book for, and why do they need this book?
Okay.
And where can they find it? And when can they find it?
Okay, awesome. So I feel that everyone needs this book. And the reason why, because I feel like in life, we all have so many experiences. We all go through traumatic experiences, relationship, grief, sickness, all types of things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that honestly we don't talk about. We just feel like it's a part of life. We just go through it and not paying attention to what was the reason for it. I feel like there's a reason for everything that that happens in our life, regardless of your age, your ethnicity, your race. I feel like it can help people in any stage of their life. I even have a chapter that's dedicated to my niece who's 14 years old. And because there's things that she deals with now in life at an early age that I've experienced. And I'm like, you know what? She needs to even understand that a part of this journey, a part of life, you're going to have some broken pieces. You're going to have some trauma. You're going to have some relationships with girlfriends and, situations, a little guy that likes you and he no longer likes you, or, the passing of a sibling, or the passing of, a loved one. And how do you go through that? And what is the purpose of it? And just navigating through all those different traumatic experiences and understand that there's a way out. There's a better you on the other side of that. There's a reason for that, how you can help others grow from that. So I just encourage everybody to take the opportunity. You can go to my website, www.earicacole.com. My name is spelled a little differently. It's Earica Cole, Cole.com, and you can go and purchase the book as well as the journal today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing. Thank
Absolutely.
you for your journey.
Yes.
and choosing to continue to get to the other side so you can look back and help others.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more. See you soon.